Hare Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone together please. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. Once more loudly. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In 2004, we celebrated in Mayapur the installation of the Panchatattva, huge deities of Lord Chaitanya and his 4 principal associates. During that time, I had the opportunity to spend with my own spiritual master in Mayapur while he was attending the GBC meetings. So one of the things he would have me do in the morning was he wouldn't like to go to the main Mangalarati. He would go to which was at 4:30 because of the crowds. So he would go to the earlier Mangalarati and Prabhupada Samadhi. But he would say, you make sure and go to the main Mangalarati and take down the announcements. Whatever announcements be, and then you have to let me know when you come up to my room, for breakfast. So I would have to go to that Mangalarati and listen to the announcement. So one particular morning, the announcement was that Badrinarayan Prabhu, he wasn't sannyasi as yet, would be giving class. So when I told him that, he said we have to make sure and go to that class. He gives some of the best classes. And he said especially because he draws from you have to be following news, like the global news, to get some of the references he makes in his classes and how he relates it back to whatever scripture he's speaking on. And then he said he's also very funny. So I went with him to that class. And that was like 22 years ago, this Gaura Purnima, and I still remember the class. One of the points he was making was about the greatness of God, how Krishna is so great, that when we have to do things in this material world, we have to take so much effort to do it, like immense effort. And he's saying, just see, like Krishna, like he just creates a planet and it just floats in space. And everything just goes on and nobody feels that they're upside down on the planet. Everybody feels that they're right side up. Even if you're on the North Pole or the South Pole, you feel you're facing up. This is Krishna's magnificence. He said that when Krishna wants to transport water, like when we have to transport water, like there's always, like right now in Trinidad, and for many, many years, many communities have problems for water. And the reason is that the population grew, there's an increased demand. It's one of the reasons anyway. There's an increased demand, and the supply can't be maintained for everybody 24/7. So it's on a ration. Me, where I live, I get water once in 8 days. So I have to make it count, like with enough storage and whatever have you. But he says when Krishna wants to transport water, he just floats it in the sky. You know, the water is absorbed from the sea and wherever water is, and clouds. And he said that it looks light, like cotton candy floating in the sky. But when there's a torrential downpour from that, then the whole place becomes flooded. And there's chaos on the ground. It's chaos. And where was this water? Floating in the sky. He said Krishna is so expert that he can make machines that without any additional supervision can go on making more machines. And he was speaking in India. So then he said, just imagine if Air India could park one plane, could park a male plane next to a female plane, and after some time they get a baby plane. Just imagine if that could happen, how much less stress and expense they would have to go through. You know? This was the nature, you know, he was a very funny person. But behind it all, he was very astute in the point he was trying to make. And humor was one of the vehicles he would use to get that point across. And I would add very effectively. Because 22 years later, I still remember the class. And I still use those examples when I often have to speak on the same subject matter. You know? He also made some political points in the class, which we won't get into, because most of you would not know the names he would mention, and I forget their significance also. So this Tuesday we'll be celebrating the wonderful appearance of Lord Chaitanya, Gaura Purnima. Srila Prabhupada, oftentimes he would give little tests sometimes for when persons had to receive initiation. So I heard this story from Dinabandhu Prabhu. He said that the first devotee went in and Srila Prabhupada asked the question. This was the test, and if you didn't pass this test, maybe you wouldn't be initiated. So the first devotee went inside and Srila Prabhupada asked him, "Who is Krishna?" And the devotee smiled. He said, "Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada." And he said, "Yes, that is true. You can be initiated." And then a second devotee went in, and well, he was just there, so he heard the first question. Then Srila Prabhupada asked him, "Who is Lord Chaitanya?" And he smiled. He said, "Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya is the most merciful incarnation of Krishna." And Srila Prabhupada said, "No. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not an incarnation, he's Krishna himself. But you can still be initiated." You know? So when we speak about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are not speaking about an avatar. We're speaking about Krishna himself, who appeared 500 years ago in West Bengal, India. He appeared in the year 1486. His parents were Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Mata. In the first part of his pastimes, he was dedicated to scholastic achievements. He excelled in logic and Sanskrit grammar, and he also began to teach that to others. He developed a reputation for being a scholar with whom there was no comparison. But he experienced a change, a drastic change in his life when he met a great personality by the name of Ishwara Puri. Ishwara Puri created such an impact in his life that his whole mood changed. And he began to manifest his pastimes as a devotee under the care and guidance of Ishwara Puri. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back to Navadvip after meeting Ishwara Puri in the place called Gaya. And he became so absorbed in meditation on Krishna that within a very short time, within a couple of years I think, he took sannyas, the renounced order of life. When he took sannyas, practically speaking, the whole of Navadvip was thrown into an ocean of despair because the beloved Lord would now leave them. Will we ever see him again? We don't know. I know what was the thing that caused the most concern for them, that caused the most pain in their heart, that Lord Chaitanya had to shave his head. Because his hair was very beautiful. I remember when when I was getting married, like I had some hair, and my wife wanted me to take a haircut. And I said, I'm going to shave my head for you. She said, no, don't shave your hair. I shaved it anyway. Now after almost 16 years of marriage, she's the one who does the shaving. But oftentimes when persons have to shave their head, for whether it is for the death of a relative, as is customary in the Hindu tradition, it causes an alarm, it causes some concern. What happened? Everything all right? Why you shave your head? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shaved his head and he took sannyas, and his intention was to go to Vrindavan. But somehow, by the actions of Nityananda, one of his associates, Advaitacharya and others, he was redirected to the town of Shantipur, where all of the devotees would be reunited. His mother also came there. When Lord Chaitanya saw his mother, he said, my dear mother, I don't know what I did. I was feeling so much ecstasy and love for Krishna that I took sannyas in error. I don't know what came over me. If you desire it, I will give up sannyas and come back home. And she said, no, this isn't necessary. But at least you settle in Jagannath Puri. West Bengal and Jagannath Puri are neighboring states. So she said, every year many devotees come from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri for the Ratha Yatra festival. And when they come to the Ratha Yatra festival, I can get news of what is happening with you. So my humble request, my dear son, is you please stay in Jagannath Puri. So with the blessings of his mother and with the blessings of all his associates, the Lord set off with Nityananda, Mukunda, and a few others of his associates towards the city of Puri, where the deity of Jagannath resides. On the way to Puri, he passed through many holy places. Practically all of them are described in some detail in a book called Chaitanya Bhagavat, and some of them are described in great detail in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is described that first the Lord passed through the town of Remuna, where he saw the deity of Kshir Chor Gopinath. And with his own mouth, he described the pastime of Madhavendra Puri and Gopinath. After spending some time there, he set off again, and he came to the town of Yajapur, where an ancient deity of Varaha, just recently we celebrated the appearance of Lord Varaha. So he went to that temple of Varaha Dev in Yajapur. He chanted and danced in ecstasy. And then he continued to the town of Cuttack. Cuttack at that time was the capital of the king of Orissa. In the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the king of Orissa was Prataparudra. And before Prataparudra, it was a king by the name of Purushottam, who was Prataparudra's father. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his associates to the temple of Gopal, which is at that time was located in Cuttack, Lord Nityananda personally began to describe the history of that deity. Because when he was traveling throughout India, he came there and he heard that pastime from the residents there. So let's hear.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Nityananda Gosai Abe Tirtha Brahmila Sakshi Gopal Dekhi Vare Katakhaila Sakshi Gopaler Katha Shuni Lokhamukhe Se Katha Kahena Prabhu Shuni Mahasukhe Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So previously, when Nityananda Prabhu had toured all over India to see the different places of pilgrimage, he also at one point in time came to the town of Cuttack and saw the witness deity. The deity is known as Sakshi because he was a witness in a very important legal matter. Sometimes when you go to court, then the lawyers have to examine the different witnesses. So this Gopal, he was a witness in a very important case, which we'll hear about today. So Nityananda, because he had heard that story from the people who lived there, he lokamukhe, from their own mouths of the local people, he now recited this story again in the presence of Lord Chaitanya, who heard this narration with great pleasure, with great happiness. So what is this story about this Sakshi Gopal? Now actually, this pastime took place maybe significantly before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, at least maybe 100 to 200 years, when this history is taking place, at least. So as the history goes, there were two brahmanas, a young brahmana and an old brahmana. They were from a town in South India, which is in present-day Karnataka, by the name of Vidyanagara. They decided that they would go on pilgrimage, and they accompanied each other. Some of the places they visited were Gaya, Kashi, Prayag, and finally they came to Mathura. After visiting Mathura, they visited the 12 forests of Vrindavan. After visiting the forests of Vrindavan, they performed parikrama of Govardhan Hill. And then came to the town of Vrindavan itself. Finally, they came to the area where the present-day Govinda temple is. Previously, the temple of Gopal was situated there. They were very captivated by the beauty of this deity. And the old man, he told the young man, the young Brahmana, I am very indebted to you. Because throughout this whole pilgrimage, this younger Brahmana rendered various services to assist the old man. In those days, now, like Prabhupada, Dev and others, he has gone with most of the congregation to pilgrimage in India. And it's very easy. You take a plane, you go. Oftentimes when devotees make arrangement, when you get out of the airport, there's somebody with a sign with your name on it. So you know immediately where to go, where your car is. When Srila Prabhupada came to the West, Prabhupada says, I didn't know whether to turn left or whether to turn right. Fortunately, there was a person with Prabhupada's name on it with a sign who assisted him. But in those days, when you would go on pilgrimage, especially if you're a little bit older, there was no guarantee of returning. When people would leave on pilgrimage, oftentimes they would die on the way. They wouldn't return. Luckily for this older Brahmana, this young man was assisting him. And he told him, he said, I cannot express the gratitude I feel in my heart. You took me to all these holy places. You assisted me in so many various ways. When I was sick, you cared for me. When I needed to eat, you made sure we both have food. You helped me with my luggage in so many different ways. He said, in gratitude for the service that you have rendered to me, I wish that you would become my son-in-law. I have a daughter, and I would like to offer a hand in marriage to you. And the young man, he became, concerned. He said that you come from a very wealthy and aristocratic family in Vidyanagar. I am but a poor man. What will your family say when you announce to them that you are giving your daughter's hand to mine? You'll be criticized, you'll be ridiculed. They will not hear of it. I cannot accept your proposal. The old man insisted, no. She's my daughter. I see you as a fit person. If I say that she has to get married to you, they cannot protest. But the young man, he was thoughtful. He said, no, when you go back and they begin to speak, you will go back on your word. So it is better not to make this promise. The older Brahmana insisted, you have to marry my daughter. And as they were in the temple of Gopal, the younger Brahmana said to him, that my dear friend, if it is your desire that I become your daughter's husband, then you speak this in front of Gopal. You give your promise in front of Gopal. And that was the culture. Like, in those days, there was no need for lawyers and a court of law or anything like that. When they would speak something seriously, persons would go in front of the deity. And they would dare not speak a lie in front of the deity. If they give their word, then that was their bond, especially if spoken in front of the deity. And oftentimes when there was disagreement among persons, they would go in front of the deity. And they would discuss in front of the deity, and it's almost as they would just accept whatever direction they perceive from the, they would accept. If this person said something in front of the deity, he could not lie, therefore I accept it. And disputes would be settled in that regard. Srila Prabhupada writes like that in his comment. So therefore, the young Brahmana asked the older Brahmana, please speak this in front of the deity.
Gopale rage vipra kahite lagila tumi janani jakanya ihare ami dila chota vipra bale thakur tumi mor sakshi toma sakshi bolai moyadi anyatha dekhi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everyone, Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
So the old man came in front of Gopal and he said, "My dear Lord, please witness that I have given my daughter to this boy." And the younger Brahmana in turn addressed the deity, "My dear Lord, you are my witness. My dear Lord, my dear Thakur, tumi mora sakshi. You are my witness, and I shall call upon you to testify if it becomes necessary later on." Can you imagine? So they left. And the old man promised, and the young man agreed, and Gopal was the witness, and they went back to Vidyanagar. Incidentally, Vidyanagar is about 1800 kilometers from Vrindavan. So they were walking all this distance. They walked and they were going back. But I was meditating on this, and there's a very important lesson that we can learn from this incident. The old man was feeling extremely grateful. He was overwhelmed with joy. One can imagine that the culmination of their whole pilgrimage was to arrive in Vrindavan, the holy place of Lord Krishna's pastimes. So he must have been feeling a certain sense of euphoria in his consciousness. And in that euphoria, in that happiness, he made this promise to this young Brahmana. We have to be very careful as individuals about the circumstances under which we have to give our word. The young man, he saw that when he went back, suppose your family protest, what would happen? The young man said, no. The old man said, no, I give my word. I promise I will do it. It's very important that we should not make promises when we are in extreme emotional states. When we are either too happy, or when we are angry, or when we are very sad. Because oftentimes, our mind is not properly settled. Take some time. Take a step back. Breathe. Get advice from somebody who we trust. That this is my intention. What do you think? It's very, very important. And I could ask, have any of you made a decision in a time like that and then later came to regret it? It happened to me as well. It happened to me. And I learned from that. That take some time. Don't say things in anger. Whether it's even to our partner or spouse or friends. Oftentimes when we are in extreme emotional states, good sense and judgment becomes clouded. So they went back, and just as the young Brahmana foresaw, the family protested. He went back, and the old man was thinking, I gave my promise in front of Gopal. Now I have to disclose it to my family members. So he told them, he called all of them, and he said, I made this promise to this young Brahmana who accompanied me on this pilgrimage. He treated me so nicely as if he were my own son and I were his father. And therefore I promised to give our daughter to him in marriage. And the son replied, are you mad? The first complaint was he is poor. This is something you see a lot of times in movies, right? Like there's often this discrepancy between the stations of the boy and the girl. You know, sometimes the father, the potential father-in-law and the relatives, they find this boy never. You know, any good romance story begins like that. There's some problem that steps in between the boy and girl's relationship. And then everybody is thrown into this emotional state. And if it's a Bollywood movie, then they would hear a very sad song, you know? And you would see the girl crying. And then you would see the boy, he's crying in front of his friends or by himself somewhere. You know, and then you would see a side-by-side picture. She's in her place crying, facing this side, and the boy's in his place crying, facing this side. You know, in these Bollywood movies. All of that takes place in the pastimes of the Lord. The pastimes of Radha and Krishna are nothing but that. And here we see that the family of the old Brahmana, they protested. If you give our sister, our daughter, in marriage to this unqualified person, we will immediately become a ridicule. We would lose our aristocracy, we would lose our reputation, and we would become a point of ridicule in society. This would be a stain on our family's heritage. But the old man protested, but I gave my promise. Not only did I give my promise, I gave my promise in front of Gopal. The man's son said, well, you don't have to worry about, just say you don't remember. Because, and his wife also interjected, if you proceed with this arrangement, we will all kill ourselves by drinking poison. You threatened suicide. The man became very disturbed. But you don't have to lie, his son said. He was very tricky. Just say you don't remember. When you say you don't remember, I will intervene at that time. Next day, the young Brahmana came and reminded the old man of his promise. Young Brahmana, recounting the story of the promise made by his father, in his hand, and said, you are trying to trick, you are accusing my father, you stole from my father, now you are making these allegations. And he chased him away. He chased him out. But the young Brahmana recounted, no. The next day, he went to the village elders and he called a meeting and he recounted the story. And the village elders, they became disturbed. Like, will this old Brahmana break his word if he has indeed given it in front of the deity? But suppose the young man is lying. After all, this is Kali Yuga. You cannot put anything past even a person of saintly background. So they began to discuss. And when the young man made his case before the elders and the villagers, they called the old Brahman and his family. And they said, this is the case. The young Brahman has made this accusation. And the Brahmin, he said, I can't exactly remember what happened. I can't exactly remember. And his son said, yes, this younger Brahmin, my father, when he was traveling on pilgrimage, had a good supply of money. And this younger Brahmana robbed him of that money. And in the course of traveling, he gave him a hallucinogenic narcotic known as dhutura. You ever hear about that in Guyana? Like in Trinidad, it's a flower that is very famous in the worship of Lord Shiva. In Trinidad, we call it datur. You have it in Guyana? In Chaitanya Charitamrita, they refer to it as dhutura. It's the same thing.
Datura.
Yeah.
It's a yellow flower. Like
And the seed is like a spiked ball. It's a big flower. A spike, and sometimes they crush the seeds and they boil it in sugarcane juice. And they make, you see, he knows. So he was accusing, and if you drink too much of it, it has a hallucinatory effect. It's a narcotic. As it's offered to Lord Shiva, especially during Shivaratri and Trayodashi celebrations and so on. So the son of the older brother said he gave him this drug, and my father went mad, and he tricked my father. And the young Brahmin remained very calm. He said, no, that this promise was made in front of Gopal. This was made in front of Gopal. And he said, is it that this was made in front of Gopal? Then you have to bring Gopal as a witness. And if Gopal comes here personally and bears witness to your words, then we will accept. And the younger Brahmana, he agreed. I will go and call Gopal. But he learned from his mistake. After all, it is Kali Yuga. So he said, you are saying this now, but when I bring Gopal, you may say something else. Even if Gopal comes, you may say something else. So therefore, what you have to do? Put it in black and white. Let us prepare a document and let us sign that when Gopal comes and he gives witness, you will agree. And so they prepare the document. And this is another valuable lesson. Just imagine, this younger Brahmana never wanted to get married to this girl. It was the girl's father who insisted. He came because of the father's word. He didn't come trying to, sometimes in hiding. The parents don't want, and therefore the boy and the girl, they hide. As sometimes happens. It wasn't anything like that. He was very forthwith and upfront and honest in the way he was dealing. And when he came there, he was so many different kinds of accusations were leveled against him. That he drugged the father. He robbed from the father. And all of these were fabrications and blatant lies. How do we respond when persons falsely accuse us of something? I mean, for me, when I'm falsely accused of something, then the temperature immediately rises from to boiling. Because it's not true. And sometimes there are persons who take great pleasure in perpetuating lies about others. They hear something, they don't verify it, and then they just go and speak it. Like broadcast. What they say, like people say, they put it on blast. They send it out in the group chat. They post it on Facebook and wherever. Or a new trend now is they make YouTube response videos. Saying these things. And then inviting people to like and share. This is what happens. How would we respond? Or how did we respond when we were falsely accused of something? It's a very, very emotional state. It's very easy to lash out. It's very easy to... This is another situation where we can go to an extreme. I find for a young Brahmana, it was very impressive how he handled the situation. What did he do? He took a step back. He didn't confront the son. You weren't there. How you could chase me with a stick? I am a Brahmin. Nothing like that. He went and he consulted the elders in the village. And he told his side of the story very honestly and without duplicity. And he learned from his mistake. He gave his word before and he broke it under pressure. Let me now get it in writing. At least let me learn. Let me take some extra precaution. So the young Brahmin, he took the necessary precautions and he set off back to Vrindavan. 1800 kilometers on foot, walking. And he went in front of Gopal. He went in front of Gopal all the way in Vrindavan. And he said, my dear Lord, that a promise was made in front of you, and I asked you that if some technical difficulties occurred, will you come and bear witness? I requested you. And now that time has come, and you have to come and bear witness in this case. He said, but I want to tell you, I am not coming to ask you because I'm interested in this girl's hand in marriage. This Brahmana, he is also your devotee. And he is at the risk of losing his honor by breaking his word. Therefore, my dear Lord, please come for the sake of this Brahmana who is your devotee, not my sake. Please come for your devotee's sake. And please bear witness so this Brahmana's reputation would be saved. Can you imagine the magnanimity of this boy? He's being accused and he's concerned for the accuser's welfare. He's being accused, but he's concerned what will happen to them, and especially my old friend. There's a different kind of consciousness. And he said, my dear Lord, for the sake of your devotee, please come and bear witness. And the Lord laughed. He said, have you ever heard of a deity walking? He said, have you ever heard that the deity goes anywhere? And the young Brahmin responded,
Pratima nahato me sakshat Vrajendra nandana Vipralagi karatu me Akarya karana Hasina Gopal kahe Shunaha brahmana Tomar pache pache ami Kari bagamana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
so Gopal said, have you ever heard of a deity walking and going anywhere? And the boy said, Pratima nahi tumi. He said, my dear Lord, you are not a statue. Pratima means statue. Nahi tumi, you are not a statue. You are Sakshat Vrajendra Nandana. You are the son of Nanda Maharaj. He said, now for the sake of this Brahmana, you could do something that you have never done before, which is walk. To where? Vidyanagar. So Gopal smiled. He said, "My dear Brahmana, just listen to me. I shall walk behind you. Don't look back. I will walk behind you, and you will know I am following you because you will hear the sound of my ankle bells. And when you hear that sound, you will know I am following. And every day, you have to cook 1 kilo of rice. Cook 1 kilo of rice and offer it to me, but don't look at me eat." And in this way, the Lord walked behind his young devotee all the way 1800 kilometers to Vidyanagar in South India. And when they finally arrived back to Vidyanagar, the Lord stopped and told the younger Brahmana, "Don't worry, I will remain here. You go and call them, and I will be a witness. Go and call them." So everyone, when they heard the news, everybody was struck with wonder. Can you imagine? I was thinking when I was reading this narration, what would the people in general would have seen if they saw Gopal also walking behind the boy? It was 1800 kilometers, maybe 1 or 2 people might have seen. This miracle that was taking place, that this deity was coming behind his young devotee. And they came and they saw that Gopal had actually come. And if you see this deity of Gopal, it's not a small deity, it's a big deity. So it's not practical that this boy could have lifted the deity and brought him. It's not practical that even from Vrindavan, the boy could have stolen the deity, kidnapped Krishna as it were, and brought him. It's not possible that any of these things could have happened. And when they saw that Krishna had come, the old man offered his obeisances by falling like a tree that was cut, fell over. And he offered his full prostrated obeisances to Gopal in gratitude for coming. And a beautiful wedding ceremony was performed. And at that time, these 2 Brahmanas became the dedicated servants of Gopal. And they continued to serve him in Vidyanagar for many, many years. The king of Vidyanagar, when he heard what had happened, he constructed a huge, beautiful temple where Gopal could be kept and receive his guests who would come to see him. And they asked the Lord, "My dear Lord, you just please remain here. Remain here. Just to prove as evidence. Before you acted as a witness, now we want you to become the evidence of what? Of how merciful and kind you are to your devotees." And the Lord remained. The Lord remained there. But there's some further history. Because this is in South India, Karnataka. Now if you want to go and visit Gopal, you won't find him in Karnataka. You won't find him in Cuttack, where this narration is taking place. You'll find him in a town called Satyavadi. So how did the deity end up in Satyavadi from Vidyanagar? We know how he ended up in Vidyanagar from Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya is seeing this deity not in Satyavadi but in Cuttack. So how did the deity end up there? And this is where the king of Puri, at the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his father comes into play. And there's contemporary history that backs this up. The father of the king of Puri at that time was Prataparudra. His father was named Purushottama. They were Surya Vamsi Kshatriyas, and they were given the title Gajapati. Gaja means elephant. They were powerful warriors. And as it happens, Purushottam attacked Vidyanagar with his armies and subjugated the king of Vidyanagar. When he saw Gopal, he went before Gopal and begged, "My dear Gopal, you please come to my kingdom." And Gopal agreed, but he didn't walk. He was carried by King Purushottam, and a temple was established in Cuttack. After some time, and this is where Lord Chaitanya saw Gopal in Cuttack. After some time, the deity was taken to the compound of the Jagannath temple in Puri. So he didn't just end up in Satyavadi, he made a detour to the temple in Puri. But Srila Prabhupada describes in his commentaries in Chaitanya Charitamrita that there was something called a prema kahala, a loving quarrel. Between who? Jagannath and Gopal. They couldn't agree. And what was the disagreement? There's one account that says Gopal didn't like the prasad that was being offered to Jagannath. It didn't suit his palate. So he complained. Another account is given that Jagannath complained that Gopal was eating all of his preparations that were rich in butter. And he was also dancing with the gopis. So I could imagine this caused a big problem for Jagannath. And the king at that time received a darshan in his dream that some arrangement needs to be made. And therefore, the temple is where it now is in Satyavadi. The temple was built after being directed by either Jagannath or Gopal or a combination of both. And that is where you will go and see Gopal today. And in this exchange that takes place between the young Brahmana and Gopal is very important for us to take very seriously. He said, "My dear Lord, Pratima tumi nahi. You are not a statue. You are Sakshat Vrajendra Nandana. You are exactly the son of Maharaj Nanda, Krishna. You're not a statue. When we come in front of the deity, it is not an ordinary thing. The deity that is properly installed and called by the Vaishnavas, he becomes exactly Krishna. He becomes exactly Lord Chaitanya, exactly Lord Nityananda. And he reciprocates with us to the degree we have developed love for him. This is the whole point. The whole idea of Krishna consciousness is developing two things. One, to develop an attitude such that Krishna wants to see us. And two, developing the consciousness that is required to see Krishna. Not see Krishna, but see Krishna directly. To experience Krishna. This is actually what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to teach. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to teach us how to directly and very intimately experience a relationship with Krishna. You know, wouldn't it be nice that when Krishna comes home from tending the cows on a good evening, to ask Krishna, "My dear Lord, what happened today when you were out tending the cows?" And to sit and listen to Krishna's response. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to teach. To teach us how to talk to Krishna and listen and hear Krishna's response. And that is the process of bhakti. Else how a deity would walk from Vrindavan 1800 kilometers to South India, or instruct a king to build a new temple for him because he couldn't agree with the next deity. This all happens on the platform of transcendental love. The love that we experience in this world is so powerful and so potent. The love that is shared amongst friends, the love that is shared amongst parents and their children, the love that is shared amongst women and men. But that pales in comparison to the love that can be experienced between the devotee and his beloved God. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes to invite us into the realm of transcendental love for Krishna. To give of ourselves to Krishna and experience Krishna's reciprocation with us. So what is the benefit of hearing this pastime? We'll hear in conclusion.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Brahmanya Deva Gopalera Mahimae Dhanya Nityananda Bhakta Yara Shrota Shri Chaitanya Shraddha Yukta Haya Iha Shunaye Jana Achire Mile Tare Gopala Charana Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Rama Rama Hare
Hare. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that the glories of Gopal, who is merciful to the Brahmanas, are very great. The narration of Sakshi Gopal was spoken by Nityananda Prabhu and heard by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He continues, one who hears this narration of Lord Gopal with faith and love, very soon attains the sweet lotus feet of Gopal. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Shri Paramakuruna Nitai Gaura Chandra ji ki. Shri Sakshi Gopal Thakur Mahashai ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So is there any question, any comment that any? Yes, Prabhu.
This young man expressed all the qualities of a God who I saw. First of all, he experienced not so difficult, not really for the past experience, nor was he worried about the future because he had full faith in Krishna's protection. The second thing is that he was not attached, he was not attached to his own character being tarnished. He was more concerned for the elder Brahman's character. And Nadveshti, he was also non-resentful, like you had pointed out. If it was me, I'd probably tell the boy. But he was not that way. He was completely being abused, chastised in public, and still, even though there was a cause for anger, he was not angry. This is a great thing. If one can be abused, insulted in a public arena and still remain free of anger. So, not dveshti, not amate, he was not doing anything for his personal enjoyment. So
And I'll add one thing to all that. On top of being God realized, he was experiencing love for Krishna.
You
Definitely.
only get God because you love Him. No other way.
Definitely.
Bhakti.
Thank you very much for that very succinct summary.